You'll be okay.
Maybe so.
Yeah. Obi's looking at me there.
Where are you going, my baby?
I'm going home. So, I don't know if I'm gonna feel happy or sad, because right now I feel
Turn
sad.
left toward East
'cause,
Casita Verde
I'm
Drive.
gonna be, far away
Head
from
south.
Oakley and Jamie, but I will see
In
and
half a
spend
mile, turn
10
right
days
onto
with
North
my
Treco
family
Road.
in Philippines, so it'll be fine.
Well, us boys are going to head down to the boat and do some work. Make some videos.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be busy, but lonely. Hope you have a good time, babe.
Yeah. I've never been home for 2 years, so I miss them so much. And I have 3 kids, so that I miss too.
Furry kids.
3 kids.
Packing up to go down to the boat in Puerto Penasco, Mexico. It's about a 3.5 hour drive. It's just the boys today. Just me and my son. This is his mommy. So I'm trying to avoid taxes, as anyone would, crossing the border into Mexico. So got a box full of Nyalic, which is what we're going to use in the bilges of Jupiter. It's a nylon coating to try and prevent corrosion. And of course, I don't want to pay tax on that when I go into Mexico. So I'm just sort of trying to scatter the each container around the car, so it doesn't look like a package of something new, So fingers crossed we'll get away with that. Well, got through the border, but geez, it's certainly changed since our new president was in power. Not in a bad way, but they're much more strict at the border. So got a carload of stuff here, including some paints and some corrosion protection for the for Jupi's aluminium. To be honest, there's probably about $1,000 worth of stuff here, and for the first time ever they wanted duties, they wanted taxes, and all they saw was 2 cans of paint. Listen, I'm not going to argue. They could have found a whole lot more. They could have charged me a whole lot more. I got away with $25, so I'm happy with that. But anyway, another hour to go and we'll be at the boat. It's now 4:30. It was about an hour back there at the border, just dealing with, making payment. So I'm gonna get there just before dark. I've got to quickly try and get some power hooked up. Got to hook up the batteries again. That shouldn't take too long. Hook up, I don't need to do the hose tonight because I got water in the tank. I'm happy with that. But before we get there, I'm gonna stop and get a burger. Amazing burger place called La Fat Burger. Big fat fries, so I like that. So we're gonna hit that before we go to the boatyard, and then by the time I hook up the power and everything, it'll be cold. So that's what you get. No problemo. Onwards. Here we come, Juby. Made it to Jupy. There he is, in all his dusty splendor. Well, a few delays, but it's still daylight, so I'm happy with that. Gonna run the power cord and get some unpacking. A lot to unpack. Good morning. First day of work today. I'm just having a morning coffee and the rest of my La Fat burger from last night. It's so big that you can't eat the whole thing in one sitting, which is good. 2 meals. Alright, mission for the day. First thing I'm going to do is pressure wash out the cockpit and the deck, just to get the dust off, so that Oakley and I are not walking it into the cabin and into our beds. And then I'm going to show you guys the corrosion that I'm addressing here with Jupiter, where crevice corrosion has crawled around under the paint, and it's near a fitting or a bolt hole or an edge of the paint where this has started, and I've just let it continue over the last few years. A lot of sanding or grinding out that bad paint and addressing the corrosion. I'll give it a light sandblasting to get into the pits, and then we will etch the surface and using epoxy primer for aluminium. So for now I'm just taking it one step at a time. I plan to just leave it with the undercoat for now. Alright, let me finish my breakfast and then we'll get on with the day. Burger failure. Alright, I've finally started digging into the corrosion. Now I can get a good grasp on what is happening. Let's have a look here. So I've sanded off this bubbling. I'll show you just the bubbling here like this. I'm not sure if the light is good for you to see, but there's lots of bubbling, right? It's Friday in Mexico, so sorry. You can see all this bubbling. Can you also see there's a crack here? So that crack was just the paint. So this was painted, probably spray painted, and the edge of the paint has cracked because there's a little movement in the aluminium, yeah? So the cracks develop in the paint, which is very stiff. Where there's an edge, moisture gets under, and then it just starts cancering down. So after uncovering that paint, I can now see the extent of the corrosion, which is very small. So just surface. You see it's just surface there. There's no change in depth. There's the odd deeper pit. But you want to get it off. You want to stop the process because it's only going to get worse and worse. So you can see where the aluminium is nice and shiny, no corrosion. That's what it should look like. Where there's been corrosion, there's some very slight pitting. I drilled these holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. These holes are in the wet lockers. The anchor chain lives in there, the garden hose lives in there, and obviously they're drains. So, you know, the anchor chain's always wet when it comes up, so they're drain holes. And I simply just drilled the holes and thought, that'll be great. Unfortunately, every drill hole that I've put in has grown a cancer. Why? Because there's a new edge of paint. I should have put just a spray of some paint On that new edge, wouldn't have had this problem. I could have used lanolin, a smear of lanolin, some thick grease that sticks really well. My ignorance on this matter has created a lot of work now. But this is 10 years in, yeah? Corrosion's not that bad and it's easily fixable, so I'm relieved to that. So I really created some work for myself. But then there's corrosion on top, which has nothing to do with me, such as, same with this cracking and corroding here. Yeah, if you look down there in the light, look at all that corrosion. So I will be grinding all of this back, sandblast all this as well, undercoat, top coat. And I think I'm going to start my work under here. It is nice working in the shade, but this is also, you know, out of view most of the time. When the boat's in the water, no one comes under here. So if I do a botchy job, no one's going to see. And then I'll get good at it, and then I can do the top surfaces, like the cockpit. That's the big one, the cockpit. All right, making headway now. At least I'm going forwards. Well, 3/4 done under the bridge deck here, and I'm getting pretty ruthless. I'm getting everything. Yeah, it's good to get rid of this stuff because it's only going to get worse over time. This is 10 years worth. Geez, I'll be happy if it's another 10 years and then it's, you know, like this again, it's fine. So let me show you what I've done. This is the underwing, the bridge deck, and it's been non-slipped. Any idea why? Almost worst case scenario. If you are upside down, you won't slip off. So, point is, I'm not too worried about the finish under here. Every patch you can see there is obviously corrosion, and it is now knocked off. Now, just by the act of sanding, I can now tell what is corroded and what is not. If there was any doubt, I can tell. And I'll give you an idea how. As I run the sander across the surface, if it barely touches anything, then, you know, normally it's like pimples. If it's corroded, it's like pimples. And you'll just see all these little round dots. And you know that's where the corrosion is. This was all corrosion. This darkened area was all corrosion, right? So I just take it out until the silver. Once I'm in the silver, I know there's no more corrosion, and this darkened area is where the surface corrosion was. And you can just feel it. If you run your hand along the texture of the paint, you'll be able to feel it. You can see here, it's a nice feathering of the paint. There's no more corrosion under there. If there was, there'd be all little circles. Little circles there, so there isn't. I wanted to show you the worst corrosion that is on the hulls. In fact, it's the worst corrosion in the entire boat, which was just under this hatch here. I took off the paint, and I just want to show you the level of corrosion that's in there. So let's have a look here. This, you remember, was really big bubbles. But the corrosion itself ain't so bad. There's a decent sized hole just there. Little one, that's probably 1/2 mil. That one might be down to 1 mil just in one place there. But the rest is not so bad. You can see stainless steel bolts coming through here. I'm going to remove this clasp for now. I may even need to remove the fiberglass liner just here to make sure that this top surface is okay, because it feels like it's bubbling up, the actual liner. So I just want to check on the top surface there. You can see this thickness here of, this is all bog. So I'm going to need to bog this entire area to get it smooth again. No huge deal, but that's the worst corrosion on the entire boat. Apart from that acid spill. All right, it's the second worst. So the next step is to try and get out any of the white rust or the oxide, the hydroxides. That's where the biggest effort must go into getting rid of the corrosion so that it now stops, not just put new paint on top. So my next work will be sandblasting. I've got glass grit. Is spray the glass bead onto the corroded areas. I'm hoping that'll get into the pits. After that, it depends how dusty it is, we'll see what it looks like, but after that will be the acid wash. And then hose off, and then let it dry. And then probably within 2 hours I'll be painting. It's time for coffee though. Might have a break. I'll see you back out here a bit later. Give me 15 minutes. Oh God, it's so windy and dusty out there. Everything is just covered in dust. The laptop is covered in dust. Oakley's covered in dust, aren't you? Good man. Good man. All right. Now, I don't want you looking at it. I don't care, I guess, but the place is a mess. This is a project at the moment, okay? It's like a house being built or renovated. It's just shit everywhere. So please, don't look and don't judge. By the way, Chiapas, Mexico. We stopped there. That's where we first checked into Mexico on the west coast. We liked it there. In fact, the marina was right next to the Chiapas coffee factory. And after we come back for being away for a couple of weeks, the deck was just covered in this brown stuff, which was coffee. It did smell good. All right. What's that? You can't hear me? Oh. That's better. I think I finished the sand back, the rub back with the grinder. Got a $25 or $30 Harbor Freight hopper. Comes with a hose, a gun. You got to have your own compressor. So I better mask up and cover everything up and protect myself because I don't want to be breathing in glass. But I tell you what, Jesus Christ. Huh? Wow. Yeah, really working that compressor hard. I can only blow for about 20 seconds before the tank's basically empty, so I'm going to persist today and try and finish the underbelly or the underwing, but I think I'm going to have to get a bigger compressor for this job, yeah? Bugger. Well, getting there slowly. I'm about 60% done. Oh, thank you. My God, my poor compressor's been going for an hour. I think I got about another hour to go, so I'm gonna let it rest for a little while. But it's working pretty good. I'll show you. So this is freshly ground. You can see it's shiny. You can see the sander marks. You can also see, say this one. You see the black patches, right? That's the corrosion, and that's what I'm focusing on. When I'm sandblasting, I'm just focusing on the dark patches. And when it's done, it's more opaque, it's less shiny. And you can see this is bright metal. I didn't bother wasting my sand or my time or compressor on that because there's no corrosion. So I'm just focusing on the pits. And it's working pretty good. I've divided it into 5, yeah, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. 3 are done. And I've probably finished a bag of glass, and that's fine because the glass is cheap. Actually, don't buy it from Harbour Freight. Find an industrial supplier near you. I can't remember the name of the one I found in Phoenix, but it's instead of $70 a bag, it was $18. That's a big difference. But also, the blast media at Harbour Freight was glass bead. That would have worked, but it's expensive. Instead, I got crushed glass. It seems to be working fine, and it's way, way cheaper. So yeah, shop around for your blast media. You can have a look at this stuff. It's very fine. It's very fine. It's like finer than sand. It's really fine. All right, I'm gonna rest my compressor, and I'm gonna have a little rest myself, make some lunch. This has got to get finished today. I got to paint this today. I can't leave it overnight. That's my goal. All right, it's painting time. Try and get rid of some of this dust, this glass dust. All right, so it's like 4 o'clock, and it's not the ideal time to paint. I certainly wouldn't paint a top coat with the falling temperature, but an epoxy undercoat I think is going to be fine. I had to towel dry, so because just from the pressure washing. I had to run the towel around, and hopefully by the time I mix up this paint, it'll be dry enough and I can just roll it on. Shouldn't take me too long, maybe half an hour. And then finally, this fresh, clean alley will be covered. But yeah, most important now to cover up this alley. Let's get it done. Wow, job complete. That was quite a full day. So now I got grey patches, which is much more comforting than exposed aluminium. So pretty happy with it. I may do another coat tomorrow, and then of course, eventually I'll get some white on there. Wow. Damn, I could use a massage. Well, guys, appreciate you hanging out with me. You know what else I'd appreciate? It'd be awesome if you could hit that subscribe button. Just try and get our numbers up a little bit. Every little bit helps. It doesn't cost anything. There's no commitments. You don't even have to watch. But if you could hit that subscribe button, that'd be awesome. All right, well, it's beer o'clock. I'm calling it a day. Well, good morning. Today is Nyalic painting day, but unfortunately this bilge, it's where the water pumps, and there's a little dribble, there's a dribble of fresh water. We can't paint Nyalic unless it is bone dry and not going to get wet for 48 hours afterwards. I'm just going to try and be careful to not gouge. I've got my selection of old and rusty ferrous tools, but that's all I got. The cutlass bearing needs replacing. I've got one ready to go. What we have to do is remove the prop shaft.